Emperor Vashtar the Eternal sat on his crystalline throne, reviewing the report that had just arrived from the Outer Rim territories. His massive form cast long shadows across the imperial throne room, while hundreds of courtiers and military advisors waited in nervous silence. For the first time in his 3,000-year reign, the emperor was genuinely concerned. "You're telling me," he said slowly, his voice like grinding stone, "that an entire imperial fleet was defeated by a single primitive world? A world that hasn't even achieved proper interstellar colonization?" Grand Admiral Zorthak, the Empire's highest-ranking military officer, shifted uncomfortably. "Yes, Your Imperial Majesty. Admiral Kethfer's fleet encountered unprecedented resistance. The humans appear to possess technology and tactics that our intelligence services had not detected." The Emperor leaned forward, his 6 eyes blazing with cold fury. "And what of the Shadow Guild? My most elite assassins? All eliminated or captured, Your Majesty." The humans seemed to anticipate their every move. Emperor Vashtar rose from his throne, his massive form towering over the assembled court. The crystalline floor cracked under his weight as he began to pace. "Show me the recordings." The throne room's holographic displays activated, showing footage recovered from the surviving Imperial ships. What the Emperor saw defied everything he understood about warfare. Human soldiers moved through his most advanced vessels like phantoms, defeating security systems that should have been impossible to breach. They demonstrated tactics that seemed to violate the basic laws of physics, appearing and disappearing at will, but what disturbed him most was the psychological profile that emerged from the recordings. These weren't desperate defenders fighting for their survival. They were professionals, calm and efficient, treating the invasion of an imperial fleet as a routine training exercise. "How many humans participated in this operation?" he asked. Grand Admiral Zorthak consulted his datapad. "Initial estimates suggest no more than a few dozen individuals, Your Majesty." The throne room fell silent. Less than 50 humans had defeated a fleet of 47 ships carrying over 200,000 Imperial troops. "Your Majesty," interrupted a nervous voice from the back of the room. Intelligence Director Kleitel stepped forward, his natural camouflage flickering with anxiety. "We've received additional intelligence about this human species that may explain their capabilities. Speak." "Our xenobiologists have completed their analysis of human evolutionary history. These creatures didn't evolve on a peaceful world like most civilized species. Their planet is what our scientists classify as a death world, an environment so hostile that only the most aggressive and adaptable life forms can survive." The intelligence director activated his own holographic display, showing images of Earth's various ecosystems. Every continent on their world contains predators capable of killing humans. Their oceans teem with creatures that could destroy our largest ships. Even their weather patterns are violent beyond anything most species have ever encountered. Emperor Vashtar studied the images with growing unease. "Continue." "But more importantly, Your Majesty, humans didn't just survive in this environment, they conquered it. They became the apex predator on a world full of apex predators. Every other species on their planet either serves them or lives in fear of them." Grand Admiral Zorthak interrupted. "Surely you're not suggesting that environmental pressure alone could account for—" "There's more," Kleitel said urgently. "Our analysis of human history shows that they've been continuously at war with each other for their entire recorded civilization. Not occasional conflicts like most species, but constant, unending warfare. They've developed thousands of different ways to kill their own kind, and they've gotten very, very good at it." The Emperor felt something he hadn't experienced in millennia: fear. "What are you telling me?" "Your Majesty," the intelligence director said quietly, "we didn't just attack a primitive world. We attacked a planet full of apex predators who have spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of warfare. And now they know we exist." As if summoned by their conversation, an aide rushed into the throne room carrying a message crystal. "Your Majesty, urgent communication from the human homeworld." The Emperor gestured for the message to be played. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a conference room filled with humans in military uniforms. At the center sat a woman with gray hair and cold blue eyes, General Patricia Hayes. "Greetings, Emperor Vashtar," she began, using his full name and title with casual familiarity. "I believe you've received reports about your recent visit to our solar system. I hope Admiral Kethvar is settling in well. He's been very helpful in explaining your Empire's military doctrine and territorial ambitions." The Emperor realized with growing horror that these humans had not only defeated his fleet, but had extracted strategic intelligence from one of his most experienced commanders. "As I'm sure you've discovered by now," General Hayes continued, "humanity is not quite what your initial reconnaissance suggested. We've been aware of your empire for quite some time. We've studied your expansion patterns, analyzed your military tactics, and assessed your technological capabilities." She paused, consulting a document that appeared to be written on primitive paper. "We've also compiled detailed intelligence profiles on your key leadership. Did you know, for example, that your Grand Admiral Zorthak has a pathological fear of small insects due to a childhood trauma involving Rigelian mind parasites? Or that your Intelligence Director Kleigtel has been embezzling funds from the Imperial Treasury to support his illegal spice addiction?" Both mentioned officials visibly flinched at the accuracy of the information. How could these humans possibly know such specific details? "But I'm not contacting you to discuss intelligence matters," Hayes said pleasantly. "I'm here to discuss the future relationship between the Galactic Empire and Earth." The Emperor leaned forward, waiting for the inevitable surrender offer or plea for mercy. "Effective immediately," Hayes announced. "The Sol system is declared a restricted zone. Any Imperial vessel entering our space without explicit permission will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. We're also establishing a 50 light-year exclusion zone around our system. Any Imperial military presence within that zone will be met with an appropriate response." The audacity was breathtaking. A single planet was dictating terms to an empire that controlled thousands of star systems. "Furthermore," Hayes continued, "we'll be conducting inspection tours of your border territories to ensure compliance with our security requirements. Our teams will be examining your military installations, reviewing your operational procedures, and interviewing your personnel to ensure they understand the new reality." Emperor Vashtar felt his mind reeling. These humans were talking about invading Imperial space as if it were their right. "I should mention," Hayes added casually, "that our inspection teams are already en route. They left Earth 3 days ago aboard ships that your sensors won't detect. The first inspection will occur at your fortress world of Kepler Prime, followed by your main naval base at Arcturus Station." The Emperor turned to his Grand Admiral. "Is this possible? Could they have vessels in our space without us knowing?" Grand Admiral Zorthak was frantically working his command console. "Sir, I'm not detecting anything on long-range sensors." But given their demonstrated capabilities, he was interrupted by alarms blaring throughout the throne room. "Your Majesty?" shouted a communications officer. "Kepler Prime is reporting unknown vessels in their system. They appeared without warning and are requesting permission to dock?" General Hayes smiled on the display. Excellent timing. "That would be Inspection Team Alpha. I believe they have some questions about your recent weapons testing in violation of several galactic treaties." The Emperor stared at the human general, beginning to understand the magnitude of his mistake. These weren't primitive savages to be conquered. They were sophisticated predators who had been studying the Empire for years, preparing for exactly this moment. "What do you want?" he asked finally. "Nothing complicated," Hayes replied. "We want to be left alone to develop in peace. In exchange, we'll refrain from demonstrating just how fragile your empire really is. You've built an impressive civilization, Emperor. It would be a shame if anything happened to it." The threat was clear, and everyone in the throne room understood it. Humanity had proven they could penetrate Imperial defenses at will. They could strike anywhere, anytime, without warning. The Empire's vast fleets and fortress worlds were useless against an enemy that could appear anywhere and vanish without a trace. "You're declaring war on the entire Galactic Empire?" Zorthek demanded. Hayes laughed, a sound that somehow managed to be both pleasant and terrifying. War? Grand Admiral, we're not interested in war. War is what happens between equals. This is more like pest control. She stood up, and the camera pulled back to reveal the full extent of the human conference room. Dozens of military officers, all wearing the same confident expression. Behind them, massive displays showed star charts of the Empire's territory, marked with tactical annotations and invasion routes. The Empire is welcome to continue its expansion in other directions, Hayes said. The galaxy is a big place, and there's plenty of room for Eve. Marcus Kane moved through the Imperial ship's corridors like a whisper of death. His black tactical suit absorbed light and sound, making him nearly invisible in the dim emergency lighting that now illuminated most of the vessel. Behind him, his teammate Sofia Rodriguez maintained perfect silence as they approached their next target. Kane had been many things in his life: Marine Force Recon, Delta Force Operator, CIA Assassin. But those were his official careers, the ones that appeared in carefully edited files. His real education had come in places that didn't exist on any map, learning skills that weren't taught in any military academy. Engineering control room. Dead ahead, Rodriguez whispered through their encrypted comm channel. 2 guards, both armed with energy weapons. Kane studied the aliens through his scope. Tall, reptilian creatures with 4 arms and what appeared to be natural body armor. Their weapons looked advanced, capable of cutting through human body armor like paper. In a fair fight, these guards would easily kill any normal human soldier, but Kane and Rodriguez weren't normal, and they had no intention of fighting fair. Rodriguez moved first, slipping through the ventilation system with impossible silence. Kane counted to 30, then began his approach from the opposite direction. The aliens were good, their heads turned at sounds normal humans couldn't even hear. But they weren't good enough. The first guard fell to Rodriguez's vibroblade, the weapon sliding between the creature's armor plates with surgical precision. The second guard's scream of alarm died in his throat as Kane's garrote cut off his air supply. Both aliens were down in less than 5 seconds, their deaths so quick and quiet that the ship's computer systems registered nothing unusual. Control room secured, Kane reported. Beginning Phase 2? Phase 2 involved something that would have impressed even the aliens' advanced technology specialists. Kane and Rodriguez weren't just soldiers, they were also trained engineers, computer specialists, and saboteurs. The equipment they carried included devices that shouldn't have existed for another century, technology born from humanity's unique approach to problem-solving, where other species developed new tools to overcome challenges. Humans had a tendency to take existing tools and use them in ways their creators had never imagined. Neural interface established, Rodriguez reported, connecting a device no larger than her thumb to the ship's main computer core. Uploading the GIF package. The GIF package was humanity's answer to superior alien technology. Instead of trying to match the Empire's advanced computers, human programmers had done something typically human. They had created a virus that didn't just attack the alien systems, but learned from them as the virus spread through the ship's network. It began copying alien technology specifications, military protocols, and tactical databases. But more importantly, it started making changes. Weapons systems found their targeting computers suddenly unreliable. Life support systems developed mysterious glitches. Navigation computers began reporting false positions. The beauty of the human approach was its unpredictability, where alien computer security was designed to stop sophisticated attacks from other advanced civilizations. It had no defense against what was essentially digital vandalism raised to an art form. Across the Imperial fleet, similar scenes were playing out. Team Delta had infiltrated the supply ship Endless Prosperity and was systematically destroying equipment while making it look like mechanical failures. Team Gamma had boarded the heavy cruiser Iron Resolve and was engaged in psychological warfare that was driving the crew to the edge of panic, but it was Team Alpha's mission that would become legend among Earth Special Forces. Commander Elena Vasquez stood in the observation deck of the Imperial flagship, watching as Admiral Kethver tried desperately to regain control of his fleet. She had been aboard the massive vessel for 6 hours now, and in that time had managed to remain completely undetected despite being surrounded by thousands of enemy crew members. Vasquez was smaller than most of her teammates, barely 5 feet tall with the build of a gymnast. But she possessed a skill that made her invaluable to operations like this. She could become anyone. The aliens saw what appeared to be a junior engineering officer, species designation Thraxian, hurrying through the corridors with appropriate urgency. The sophisticated holographic disguise was one of humanity's most closely guarded secrets. Technology reverse-engineered from crashed alien scouts and improved with typically human innovation, but the real advantage wasn't the disguise. It was Vasquez's training in alien psychology. She moved like a Thraxian, held her body with Thraxian posture, even unconsciously mimicked Thraxian scent markers. To any casual observer, she was exactly what she appeared to be. "Admiral," she said in perfect Thraxian. "Approaching Kethver-S command station. Engineering reports multiple cascading failures throughout the ship. We may need to consider emergency evacuation protocols." Kethver spun to face her, his 4 eyes wild with frustration and fear. "Impossible. Our ships are the finest in the galaxy. How can primitive humans cause such damage?" "Perhaps," Vasquez suggested carefully, "these humans are not as primitive as our intelligence suggested. It was a calculated risk?" She was planting the seed of doubt that would hopefully grow into full retreat. But she had to be subtle about it too much, and Kethver might become suspicious. "You may be right," the Admiral admitted reluctantly. "Signal the rest of the fleet. I want full diagnostic sweeps on all systems. If these humans have some kind of advanced technology we're not aware of..." He never finished the sentence. Vasquez's plasma cutter had already severed his spine before he realized the danger. The disguise flickered off as she turned to face the rest of the bridge crew, revealing a small human female with short black hair and cold brown eyes. "Hello, gentlemen," she said pleasantly in Galactic Standard. "I believe we need to discuss your surrender." The bridge erupted into chaos as security alerts began blaring throughout the ship. But chaos was exactly what Vasquez had planned for. In the confusion, she activated a device that released a cloud of microscopic nanobots into the ship's air supply. The nanobots were programmed with one simple instruction: find alien neural tissue and interfere with normal brain function. Within minutes, the effects began to show. Alien crew members found themselves disoriented, unable to concentrate. Some began seeing things that weren't there. Others became paranoid, suspicious of their own teammates. The lucky ones simply fell unconscious. It wasn't lethal. Humanity's rules of engagement still applied, even in this situation. But it was effective. The Imperial flagship slowly descended into madness as its crew became unable to function normally. Vasquez made her way through the chaos toward the ship's communication center. She had one more message to deliver. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Hayes was receiving reports from around the globe. The alien assassination campaign had been neutralized with brutal efficiency. Every Shadow Guild operative that had landed on Earth was either dead or captured. And the ones they had captured were providing very interesting information under interrogation. "Ma'am," reported Colonel Zhang, "her intelligence chief, Dr. Petrov's team, has finished their analysis of the captured assassin. These creatures are genetically engineered for stealth operations, but they have some significant weaknesses, such as they're designed to operate in specific environmental conditions. Change the atmospheric pressure by just a few percentage points, and their cloaking systems fail. Their enhanced reflexes are dependent on specific hormone cycles that can be disrupted with the right electromagnetic frequencies. And most importantly, their neural architecture makes them extremely vulnerable to certain types of psychological manipulation." Hayes studied the data on her screen. "In other words, they're highly specialized tools designed for very specific missions." "Exactly. But human special forces are trained to adapt to any situation. When these aliens encountered an environment they weren't designed for, they couldn't cope." It was a perfect example of the fundamental difference between the Empire's approach and humanity's. The Empire created specialized tools for specific problems. Humans created adaptable problem solvers who could handle anything. What about the fleet? Colonel Jiang smiled. See for yourself? The main display changed to show feeds from cameras aboard the Imperial ships. What Hay saw would have been impossible for her to imagine just days before. Human operatives moved freely through alien vessels, their crews either unconscious, incapacitated, or in full retreat. Ships that had seemed invincible were now floating helplessly in space, their systems compromised beyond repair. How many casualties on our side? She asked. 0 fatalities. 3 injuries, all minor. Team Delta's demolitions expert sprained his ankle escaping from an exploding ammunition depot. Hayes allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had been preparing for this war for decades, training for the day when they would face an enemy with superior technology. They had learned to compensate for their technological disadvantages with superior tactics, training, and the uniquely human ability to turn any situation to their advantage. The communication console chimed with an incoming transmission. "Ma'am, we're receiving a signal from the Imperial flagship." "Put it through." The screen displayed the bridge of the alien vessel, now showing signs of significance. Admiral Kethver stood before the massive holographic display in the command center of the Imperial Dreadnought Eternal Dominion. The blue-green planet rotating slowly before him looked peaceful, almost innocent. How wrong appearances could be. "This is the world that dares to refuse our generous offer of protection?" Kethver asked, his 4 eyes narrowing as he studied Earth. Behind him, his tactical officers shuffled nervously. The Admiral was known for his short temper when dealing with rebellious worlds. "Yes, Admiral," replied Commander Zixtel, consulting his datapad. "The humans sent back our diplomatic envoy with what their leaders called a unanimous rejection. They also included several crude gestures that our translation systems flagged as highly insulting." Kethver's mandibles clicked in annoyance. In his 3 centuries of service to the Galactic Empire, he had conquered over 40 worlds. Most surrendered after seeing the massive fleet that accompanied his diplomatic missions. The smart ones accepted the Empire's protection immediately, understanding that resistance was pointless. The foolish ones required a demonstration of Imperial might before they came to their senses, but Earth was different. These humans had done something unprecedented. They had laughed, when the Imperial envoy had delivered. The standard ultimatum: submit to Imperial rule or face the consequences. The human leaders had burst into what their species called laughter. They had then proceeded to mock the Empire's technology, question the sexual preferences of the Emperor's mother, and suggest several anatomically impossible activities that the envoy could perform upon himself. "Show me their military capabilities again," Kethver ordered. The hologram shifted, displaying various human military installations. Primitive kinetic weapons, chemical explosives, nuclear missiles that were barely more advanced than stones thrown by children. Their most sophisticated warships couldn't even achieve faster-than-light travel without assistance. "How many star systems have they colonized?" the Admiral asked. "1, sir." "Just their home system?" "They have some mining operations on nearby planets and a few research stations, but nothing that could be called a proper colony." Kethver found this hard to believe. Most species achieved interstellar travel and began colonizing other systems within decades of developing spaceflight. The Empire's record showed that humans had possessed space travel for over a century. Yet they remained confined to their single star system like insects trapped in a jar. "They must be incredibly lazy," he concluded. Or perhaps they lacked the intelligence for proper expansion. What Kethver didn't understand was that humans weren't lazy or stupid. They were careful. Earth's governments had detected the Empire's expansion patterns decades ago through their deep space monitoring networks. They had watched, learned, and prepared. While other species rushed headlong into the galaxy only to be absorbed into the Empire's vast bureaucracy, humans had chosen a different path. They had chosen to become very, very good at killing things. Sir, Commander Zixtel interrupted his thoughts. We're receiving another transmission from the human homeworld. Put it through. The hologram flickered, revealing a middle-aged human female in what appeared to be their equivalent of military dress. She had short gray hair and cold blue eyes that seemed to look directly at Kethver despite the vast distance between them. I am General Patricia Hayes, Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces, the human said in perfect galactic standard. I believe you gentlemen are looking for our surrender. Finally, Kethver muttered. Yes, human. Your species has 48 standard hours to... I'm not here to surrender. General Hayes interrupted, her lips curving into what humans called a smile. But there was nothing pleasant about this particular expression. I'm here to give you a chance to leave our system voluntarily. This is your only warning. The bridge fell silent. In all his years of service, Kethver had never heard a single planet species threaten the Imperial fleet. You dare, he began. Admiral, Hayes continued, consulting what appeared to be a paper document. Your name is Kethver, correct? Fourth son of Marshal Kethman, graduated second in your class from the Imperial War College. Veteran of the Rigel campaign, collector of Tharxian battle poetry. And according to our intelligence files, terrified of small enclosed spaces due to a childhood incident involving a grain silo. Every eye on the bridge turned to stare at Admiral Kethver. How could this primitive human possibly know such specific details about his personal history? You have 36 hours, Hayes said calmly. After that, we'll consider your continued presence in our system an act of war. The transmission ended. Commander Zixtel was the first to break the stunned silence. Sir, how could they possibly know? It doesn't matter, Kethver snarled, though privately he was shaken. Signal the fleet. We proceed with standard occupation protocol. Deploy the Shadow Guild. The mention of the Shadow Guild sent a ripple of unease through the bridge crew. The Shadow Guild was the Empire's most elite assassination unit, composed of species from worlds where stealth and murder were high art forms. They had never failed a mission. Kethver turned back to the hologram of Earth, his confidence returning. Let's see how these humans handle visitors they can't detect. 3 days later, on Earth, Director James Morrison sat in his office deep beneath the Pentagon, reading reports that would have given any reasonable person nightmares. As the head of the Department of Unconventional Warfare organization whose existence was denied by every government on Earth, Morrison was intimately familiar with humanity's capacity for creative violence. The first wave hit 6 hours ago, reported Agent Sarah Chun, his second in command. 12 major cities simultaneously. We lost the President of Brazil, the Prime Minister of Japan, 2 Supreme Court justices, and 17 other high-ranking officials before our people could respond. Morrison nodded grimly. Casualties among the assassins? 0 confirmed kills. These things are good, Jim, really good. Our best surveillance systems can barely track them, and they seem to phase in and out of normal space. Plus, they appear to have some kind of adaptive camouflage that adjusts to any environment within seconds. But we did capture one? Chun's smile was predatory. Oh yes. Special Activities Division managed to take one alive in Frankfurt. Dr. Vasquez is having a very interesting conversation with it as we speak. Morrison stood and walked to the reinforced window that looked out over the facility's main operations center. Dozens of technicians worked at holographic displays while massive screens showed global military positions. In the corner, a group of his specialists were reviewing footage from the alien attacks, analyzing movement patterns and tactical approaches. Sarah, activate the blacklist protocol. Chun paused, her hand hovering over her tablet. Sir, are you certain? Once we go down that road, they want to play the assassination game, Morrison interrupted. It's time they met some players who wrote the rulebook. Chun nodded and began entering authorization codes. Which teams do you want to deploy? Morrison considered the question carefully. The blacklist contained the most dangerous individuals humanity had ever produced. Men and women who had been recruited from various black operations around the world, trained beyond normal human limits, and turned into something that existed in the gray area between soldier and monster. Start with Team Omega. If the aliens are as good as our reports suggest, we'll need our best. Omega it is. What about their target list? Morrison turned back to the Earth display, now showing red markers where the alien assassins had struck. Every Imperial ship in our solar system, starting with their command vessel. An hour later, the first human response team launched from a facility that didn't exist, aboard ships that were never built, carrying weapons that had never been tested. They were headed for an Imperial dreadnought whose crew was about to discover that humans had some very specific ideas about how the assassination game should be played. Admiral Kethfer was reviewing casualty reports when the first explosion shook his ship. The lights flickered and emergency klaxons began wailing throughout the vessel. "Report!" he barked. "Unknown detonation in Engineering Section 7, his tactical officer replied, frantically working his controls. "No breach detected, but we've lost primary power to that entire deck. Boarding action?" "Negative, sir. All airlocks show secure, and sensors detect no unauthorized vessels in the area." A second explosion rocked the ship, followed quickly by a third. Each blast seemed to target critical systems with surgical precision. Kethfer realized with growing horror that something was already aboard his vessel, and whatever it was, it knew exactly where to strike. "Deploy security teams to all vital areas," he ordered. "Find whatever is causing this and eliminate it." But the security teams found nothing. Corridors that had been empty seconds before showed signs of sabotage. Yet surveillance systems captured nothing but shadows and the occasional flicker of movement that could have been a trick of the light on the Imperial ship, Dark Vengeance. Captain Mordith was experiencing similar problems. His vessel's computer core had been systematically destroyed by precisely placed charges that somehow bypassed every security system. His engineering staff was discovering that key components had been removed from critical systems, not destroyed, but simply taken, as if someone had decided they